The man who sold his only friend for $25 now owns a $40 million mansion. And the reason will leave you speechless. Sylvester Stallone lives in a house with its own private beach in Florida right now. But go back just a few decades and you'll find him sleeping on the floor of a bus station with nowhere to go. He was so poor he couldn't feed his dog. So broken he had to give away the only thing that loved him. Then Hollywood came knocking with $350,000 for his movie script. That's more money than most people see in 10 years. But Stallone looked at that check and said the two most insane words anyone has ever said to that much money. He said no. And what happened next? Built an empire that nobody saw coming. Keep watching, because by the end of this, you'll understand why sometimes the stupidest decision becomes the smartest move you ever make. Let me paint you a picture of where this all began. New York City, Hell's Kitchen neighborhood. Not the cooking show, the actual place. And trust me, there was nothing glamorous about it in the 1940s and 50s. This was rough living. Families breaking apart left and right. People screaming at each other through thin walls. Kids getting into fights just walking to school. Violence was normal. Poverty was everywhere. And into this mess came a baby boy in 1946 named Sylvester. But life decided to make things even harder for him from day one. During birth, something went wrong. Doctors used forceps that accidentally cut a nerve in his face. The left side of his face stopped working. His lip hung down. One eye drooped. When he talked, the words came out thick and slurred. Kids are cruel! You know this. And young Sylvester learned it fast. Other children made fun of how he looked. They imitated his speech. They called him names. Adults stared at him like something was wrong with him. And maybe worst of all, his own parents couldn't stay together. When you're already dealing with a face that doesn't work right, the last thing you need is your family falling apart. But that's exactly what happened. His parents divorced, and Sylvester got shuffled around like luggage nobody wanted. Foster homes for a while, then off to live with his father in Maryland, then back to his mother. Back and forth, never stable, never safe, never knowing where home really was. Most kids in that situation just give up. They accept that life dealt them a bad hand and there's nothing they can do about it. But something burned inside Sylvester that refused to die. Maybe it was rage at how unfair everything was. Maybe it was desperation to prove all those bullies wrong. Whatever it was kept pushing him forward, even when forward seemed impossible. He decided he wanted to act, be in movies, perform on stage. When he told people this dream, they laughed in his face. A kid with a paralyzed face who can barely talk wants to be an actor? That's the dumbest thing we've ever heard, they said. But Sylvester didn't care what they said. He packed up and went to drama school all the way in Switzerland. Then he came back and enrolled at the University of Miami to study theater. But here's the thing about traditional education when you're hungry and desperate. It moves too slow. Sylvester couldn't sit in classrooms learning theory when he needed to make something happen now. So he dropped out and moved straight to New York City with basically nothing in his pockets. No money saved up, no family connections in the entertainment business, no backup plan if this didn't work. Just blind faith that somehow, some way he would make it. Reality hit him like a truck. Nobody wanted to hire him. He went to audition after audition. Casting directors would take one look at his face and immediately say no thanks. They didn't even let him read lines sometimes. His appearance disqualified him before he opened his mouth. Rejection after rejection after rejection. But rejection doesn't pay rent. Rejection doesn't put food on the table. Sylvester needed money desperately, so he took whatever work he could find. He got a job at the Central Park Zoo cleaning out the lion cages. Picture that for a second. The future Rocky Balboa scooping up animal waste just to survive. He wasn't too proud to do it. He just did what needed doing. But even that job wasn't enough. He couldn't afford an apartment. Couldn't afford a room. Couldn't even afford a couch to crash on. So for 3 weeks straight, Sylvester Stallone slept in the Port Authority bus terminal. He used his jacket as a blanket. He used his bag as a pillow. He watched people come and go while he had nowhere to go. Imagine the loneliness of that. Imagine lying there at night wondering if you made a terrible mistake chasing this dream. And then came the moment that almost broke him completely. He had a dog. A loyal companion that stayed with him through everything. When you have nothing else, a dog becomes your family, your friend, your reason to keep going. But Sylvester reached a point where he couldn't even afford dog food anymore. He was starving and so was his dog. So he did something that tore his heart apart. He stood outside a liquor store in New York and found a stranger willing to buy his dog. He sold his best friend for $25. Just $25. That's what his companion was worth because that's all he could get. He cried while handing over the leash. This wasn't just about money. This was admitting defeat. This was saying my life has gotten so bad I can't even take care of a dog. But wait, the story gets even darker before any light appears. Sylvester was so broke, so desperate, so out of options that he did something he never wanted anyone to know about. He starred in an adult film, an explicit movie that paid him $200 for 2 days of work. He needed that money for rent. He needed it to eat. When you're that hungry, that desperate, pride becomes a luxury you can't afford. Years later, after he became famous, that film resurfaced. People used it to embarrass him, to say he wasn't a real actor, to mock his early struggles. But here's what those critics missed. That film proved how far Sylvester was willing to go to survive, how much pain he would endure, how badly he wanted something different from his life. Then in 1975, something shifted. Sylvester was watching TV and saw a boxing match. Muhammad Ali versus Chuck Wepner. Ali was the greatest boxer alive. Wepner was a nobody, a journeyman fighter they called the Bayonne Bleeder because he got cut up so easily. Nobody gave Wepner any chance at all. This was supposed to be a quick payday for Ali, but something amazing happened. Wepner didn't quit. He got knocked down, but got back up. He took punches that should have ended the fight, but stayed on his feet. He went the full 15 rounds with the champion. He lost the fight, but he proved something important. He proved that heart matters more than talent sometimes. Sylvester watched that fight and saw his own life playing out in the ring. Every knockdown was every rejection. Every punch taken was every insult about his face. Every time Wepner got back up was every time Sylvester refused to quit. And right then, inspiration struck like lightning. He went home and started writing. 3.5 days later, he had a complete movie script. He called it Rocky, the story of a small-time boxer from Philadelphia who gets one impossible shot at the heavyweight championship. A nobody fighting the biggest somebody in the world. Sound familiar? It was Sylvester's life disguised as a boxing movie. He started showing the script around Hollywood. And here's the crazy thing. People loved it. Producers called him saying, "This is great, we want to buy this." The offers started coming in. $50,000, then $100,000, then $250,000, then $350,000. For a man who had just sold his dog for $25, this was unimaginable money. This was years of rent paid up front. This was food and security and never sleeping in bus stations again. His entire life would change the second he signed that contract. But the producers told him one condition. "We want the script, but we don't want you in the movie. We'll get a real movie star. Someone people actually want to watch. Someone who looks right for cameras." And Sylvester Stallone said no. He refused the money. People around him lost their minds. His friends begged him to take the deal. "You're being stupid," they said. "You're throwing away your only chance." But Sylvester understood something they didn't. This script wasn't just a story to him. It was his blood on paper. If some handsome actor with a perfect face played Rocky, the whole point would be lost. The story only worked if the real underdog played the underdog character. So he kept saying no to bigger and bigger offers. He stayed broke. He kept struggling. And finally, a small production company called United Artists agreed to his terms. "We'll let you star in it," they said, "but the budget has to be tiny. Only $1 million to make the entire film. Most movies cost way more." But Sylvester didn't care. He said yes immediately. Rocky came out in November 1976. And it didn't just do well, it became a phenomenon. That tiny $1 million movie made $117 million at the box office. It got nominated for 10 Academy Awards and won 3, including Best Picture. Overnight, Sylvester went from sleeping in bus terminals to being on every magazine cover in America. From selling his dog to dining with presidents. From the guy nobody wanted to one of the most wanted actors in Hollywood. And here's the most beautiful part of the whole story. Remember that dog he sold? Sylvester went back to that liquor store. He tracked down the man who bought his dog, and he offered to buy him back. The man said no at first, but Sylvester kept offering more money. Finally, the man agreed to sell for $15,000. From $25 to $15,000. That's not just buying back a dog. That's healing a wound that cut deep into your soul. But Sylvester didn't stop with Rocky. In 1982, he created another iconic character, John Rambo. a Vietnam War veteran suffering from trauma who becomes a one-man army when pushed too far. First Blood wasn't just action and explosions. It was about how soldiers get treated when they come home from war, about pain that never goes away, about being trained to kill and then being told to forget everything and act normal. The movie connected with millions of people and launched another massive franchise. Rocky sequels kept coming. Rambo sequels kept coming. By the mid-'80s, Sylvester Stallone was one of the biggest movie stars on planet Earth. But success doesn't last forever without failure showing up. In 1987, Sylvester made a movie called Over the Top about arm wrestling and truck driving. It bombed hard. Nobody wanted to see it. Then he tried comedies. Movies like Oscar and Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Critics absolutely destroyed these films. Audiences laughed at them for all the wrong reasons. Sylvester's career started slowing down. Younger action stars came along with better looks and modern styles. By the early 2000s, Hollywood had moved on. They thought Sylvester was finished. Too old, too irrelevant, washed up. But in 2006, Sylvester did something nobody expected. He wrote, directed, and starred in Rocky Balboa, a movie about an aging fighter stepping back into the ring one more time. Critics called it a stunning comeback. The $24 million movie made over $155 million worldwide. Then Rambo returned in 2008. Then The Expendables in 2010 brought together all the old action stars. And in 2015 came Creed. Sylvester played Rocky as a mentor to a young fighter and earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. Hollywood bowed to him again. Now, let's talk about what all this success built. In Palm Beach, Florida, Sylvester owns a mansion that cost $35 million and is now worth over $40 million. This estate sits directly on the Atlantic Ocean with its own private beach. In Palm Beach, private beaches are almost impossible to have. But Sylvester has one. The main house has floor-to-ceiling windows everywhere. Mediterranean-style architecture with high roofs and clean white walls. Inside, the design is elegant but comfortable. Cream sofas you can actually sit on. Expensive art on every wall, Warhol paintings, Damien Hirst pieces, a grand piano in the living room, a kitchen that faces breaking ocean waves. And here's a fun detail. The home gym has wallpaper covered in hand-painted turtles because Rocky had two pet turtles named Cuff and Link. Even in his private workout space, Sylvester keeps that connection to his most famous character, from bus stations to oceanfront mansions, from $25 to $400 million. From a face people mock to a face the whole world recognizes. Sylvester Stallone proved your beginning doesn't decide your ending. That betting on yourself when nobody else will can change everything. He could have taken that money and lived comfortably. But comfortable wasn't his goal. Truth was. And because he stayed broke a little longer, risked everything one more time, he became legendary. Hit subscribe if this story reminded you why quitting is never the answer.